Given all the destruction, the heartache, when we see these houses floating down a river, see cars damaged, we even see loss of life, it really makes us take a second. And if we were not directly affected by the storms, taking a look at where we are and saying, if that were me, would I be prepared? Today on Recharging with Champions for our Thursday Jumpstart, which is normally a trivia question that's supposed to be fun, I thought, instead of having a fun trivia question, let's do a trivia question that might make people think about where they are right now and maybe help someone make a decision to make sure they're more prepared for something like this in the future. So, the question that we're going to pose is, what percentage chance does one have of having a flood to have flood insurance required on their property? This triggers two things. One, it's going to make them think about what percentage of people would have flood insurance, but then it might also make them think, oh, wait, my homeowner's insurance doesn't cover flood insurance. That may not be something that they realize, and it does not. So let's go into the answer is 1%, and let's explain the why. Remember, in the toolkit, I do have this in a post that you can put right into your social media. It's a long one today because I want to make sure and explain the 1% rule and when it's required so that people can read that and really understand their situation. But the answer is 1%. So if you have a 1% or more chance of being in a flood or your home being in a flood, then flood insurance is required if you have a mortgage, standard mortgage, Fannie, Freddie, FHA, VA, USDA, and most of the others. Most of us follow that same 1% rule, which is the 100-year flood zone rule. But something to think about is you can get insurance. You could get flood insurance if you were in an area that maybe isn't a 1% chance, but it might still be a high risk. So it's something to consider, and maybe call your local insurance agent and ask them what they would suggest when it comes to flood insurance for your home. Another thing to note, we saw a lot of these landslides, a lot of mud coming in. Just FYI, a lot of times flood insurance does not cover landslides. Landslides and earth moving is a completely different policy than your flood insurance policy. So something to consider. Maybe if you live on a hill and you've seen all of this, you're like, if that had happened where I live, that may have been my house that was just infiltrated with a ton of land and debris. And do I have coverage? Thinking I'm way up high, surely I wouldn't need that kind of coverage. It's worth looking into. So I want this trivia question to really stoke some curiosity in the person that sees it, and maybe even have them question whether or not they are prepared. Their insurance is covering the right amounts if they were to be in something like this. Pass it on, be the beacon of information for all of your sphere, and have a wonderful Thursday.